NBPA regulations governing player agents. NBPA objectives: to enforce minimum requirements, to give players the opportunity to select an agent that is in compliance, competent, and fiduciary with honesty, competency, and loyalty via the collective bargaining agreement, to give comprehensive facts to players about the ability and role of the agent so they make informed decisions about choosing, to enforce uniform standards of conduct and fiduciary responsibilities of agents because it's international and has different conflicting laws across federal, local, and state, to provide agents and players with expeditious, fair procedure for resolving disputes between themselves involving contracts, relationships, etc. Authority to regulate agents. The NBPA conferred by federal law as exclusive bargaining representative via the National Labor Relations Act. Section 9A says that reps are exclusive reps of each other for purposes of collective bargaining on rates of pay, hours of employment, etc., agreed on by the NBA and the NBPA, set forth in Article 36. Player agents. The approval of player contracts. Only the NBA can approve player contracts with NBPA certified agents or a player acting on his own behalf. There's a fine of $50,000 to teams that negotiated with an NBPA agent if they knew they weren't certified or failed to inquire about their certification. Prohibition on players as agents. Players are prohibited from representing other players or prospective players, or holding equity interests in agencies that represents other players. Indemnity. The NBPA holds the NBA harmless of any claims related to NBPA agent regulation programs. Any judgment, costs, or settlements provided, the NBPA is immediately notified in writing, no longer than 5 days of receipt thereof, is given the opportunity to assume defense, and the NBA or teams, whichever is sued, defends the case and doesn't settle without prior written consent from the NBPA. Agent lists. The NBPA gives lists of agents and players represented by them. Lists are updated every 2 weeks from the day after the NBA Finals through the first day of the regular season, then once a month thereafter. Confirmation by the player agent. The NBPA gets 3 days to confirm agent status to the NBA, or the NBA is free to act as the agent is certified. The years the NBPA made amendments to the regulations governing the agents was 2016, 2018, and 2019. And the amendments were made as they found that it was necessary to continue to just make it better for the players and them and their interest in making better decisions with their agents and being more clear on what is defined in the regulations. The scope of regulations. Who can conduct contract negotiations with NBA players, including rookies, other than a player representing himself? The answer is a certified player agent, an agent that has a standard player agent contract, or a SPAC, with a player via Section 4. What player agent actions do the NBPA govern? Well, they govern providing of advice, counsel, information with respect to negotiating individual contracts with clubs and enforcing thereafter. Also, compensation negotiations with clubs on the player's behalf. Any activity, conduct that bears upon the agent's competence, ability, and integrity to represent players and NBPA properly in negotiation of contracts. All provisions can be amended by officers and player representatives of the NBPA periodically as deemed fit. Requirements for certification. Only individuals can be certified, not businesses or corporations or the like. No limit on individuals in a corporation or business, etc., that can be certified. The signing and filing of the agent application constitutes compliance. Grounds for denial of certification. Failure to complete the application or comply in the processing of the application. Making false statements, misappropriating funds, financial malpractice, embezzlement, or the like, engaging in anything that reflects adversely on the integrity or credibility of the agent, refusing to swear to comply with regulations or to not get a passing score on the agent exam are all examples of grounds for denial of certification. Appeal from denial of certification. Must be sent prepaid certified mail or via email in writing 30 days after receipt of denial, if you wish to do so. Suspension or revocation. At any time, the NBPA can propose suspending or the revocation of certification for conduct via Section 3B 1-20 or noncompliance via 3A. The agent may appeal via arbitration procedure via Section 6BG. The appeal to arbitration is the exclusive method of challenging the suspension or revocation. Form of certification. It will be received via certified letter via prepaid certified mail or via email. Expiration of certification. Agent certification will expire if no player represented under the NBA contract after 5 years. On or before July 1, 2016, then the period will start on July 1, 2016, and July 1st thereafter. If it expires within this time, you must reapply. Standard conduct for player agents in providing services governed by regulations. Disclose all relevant information in your background check, experience in negotiations, previous clients, etc. Pay annual fees July 1st and attend seminars unless the NBPA specifies otherwise for experienced agents. Comply with maximum fee amounts in Section 4, the SPAC, and any amendments. Advise the player and report to the NBPA any known contract violations by an NBA team. Provide the NBPA with a copy of player compensation agreement with the NBA within 48 hours of it being executed. It is the player agent responsibility to maintain and or produce SPAC upon request by the NBPA. April 1st of each succeeding year, provide to the player and the NBPA an itemized statement or a free disclosure form covering January 1st through December 31st that details separate fees for individual player salaries and or grievance arbitration, management of player assets, provision to the player of financial investment, legal, tax, and other advice, or other miscellaneous services. Permit a person or firm of current or former players to perform an audit on relevant books upon request. Notify the NBPA in writing within 30 days of any changes to your certified status, specifically involving employment status since the application filing, player changes, disciplinary actions or charges, and changes in contact information. Provide on or before April 1st to the NBPA and players represented with information in Section 10 through 12 of the certification application. Provide the NBPA with all investigative materials pursuant to regulations and fully cooperate. Properly manage affiliates who provide services to the player agent, as it will count against you as the agent if they violate any of the terms. Regarding payments for assistance in recruiting players, you must prepare a recruiter disclosure form detailing any persons or firm you paid as the player agent or you promised to pay for recruiting a player to sign a standard player agent contract. Present the form to the player before they sign the SPAC so they are informed. Family members can't be used as recruiters. Conduct of recruiters are the conducts of the player agent. So be mindful of who your recruiters are. player must sign a disclosure form acknowledging his awareness of payments made. Submit a copy of the disclosure form and the SPAC to the NBPA. Submit any updates to the form to the NBPA. Comply with any written policies by the NBPA. Prohibited conduct subject to discipline. Player agents are prohibited from the following: representing any player in contract negotiations without current certification and assigned SPAC. Providing or offering money other than an amount less to the max fee as noted in regulations to induce a player, rookie, or college athlete to sign with you. That's the same for family members. Providing materially false or misleading information to players to encourage them to sign with you. Holding or seeking to hold financial interest in an NBA team or business that would be or appear to be in conflict of interest. Representing the general manager or coach of a team or any other person that is involved with decision-making on the player's salaries. It does not prohibit two agents from the same agency from representing a GM and a player separately as long as written notice is given to the player. Engaging in an activity that is in conflict of interest, representing two players on the same club is not prohibited. Accepting or soliciting money from the NBA clubs. Negotiating any provision that deprives a player from receiving a benefit from a collectively bargained agreement by the NBA and the NBPA. Negotiating agreement or side letter that violates policies. Concealing materials or material facts from players regarding their contracts. Failing to advise a player and the NBPA of NBA club violations of the player's contract. Engaging in unlawful conduct like fraud, dishonesty, deceit, or the like. Breaching the SPAC. Indirectly circumventing fee limits by increasing charges for other services, i.e., money management, financial consultation, negotiating, endorsement contracts, etc. Violating the standard player agreement whereby the agent agrees to resolve disputes through arbitration and to not file a lawsuit for breach of contract against the player. Agreeing to split fees with another agent without completing Exhibit A of the SPAC. Assigning rights via SPAC without completing Exhibit B of the SPAC. Violating requirements of Section 3A 1-14 or 4A. Wagering or attempting to wager on any game in the NBA or G League, including draft selection, contract signing, stats, summer league, or anything categorized as a prop bet. Agreements between player agents and players / max fees. To perform services of player agents under regulations, you must, again, have a certification and have a signed NBPA standard form written agreement with the player. Retyped contracts are not accepted. You need to send the agreement via email within 48 hours of execution to the NBPA legal office. Agreement shall include a provision that allows either party to terminate upon 15 days with a written notice to the other party and sent to the NBPA. The 15 days can be shortened by parties' agreement or absent agreement of parties upon showing exigent circumstances. Player agent compensation. The maximum fees which a player agent may charge or collect is as follows. Negotiate the minimum compensation under the collective bargaining agreement. The player agent gets 2% or less if agreed with the player. Negotiates anything greater than the minimum, 4% or less if the agreement is made with the player to do so. If a player is drafted in the first round and compensated via the rookie scale, the agent can get no more than 4% of the compensation in excess of the 80% amount that is guaranteed in the scale. or by a rookie that receives the minimum under Article 2, Section 2B of the CBA, unless agreed to a lesser percent. In computing the maximum fee, base salary, signing bonus, and performance bonus actually received is included in compensation. Any fees based on unascertainable compensation at the time can't be collected until the player collects, unless the player on his own accord chooses to do so. The amount of the agent fee it's not affected by the fact that the player received a guaranteed contract from a team. With respect to deferred compensation, the agent only is entitled to a fee based on present value of the compensation. Arbitration procedures. There are 3 types of disputes. The NBPA denies an application and the applicant wishes to deny that appeal. A dispute arises concerning meaning, interpretation, and enforcement of a SPAC between a player and a player agent. Or a dispute arises between agents regarding fees owed by a player that they both represent. The player has the option to put the fees owed in escrow after the dispute is settled and paid out of escrow via the arbitrator's decision. Filing. Players and the player agent must submit written grievance to the player and or player agent in person or by mail, as well as to the NBPA by certified mail or email within 30 days. The players don't need to be under the NBA contract to do this. The answer. The party of whom the grievance has been filed, or the respondent, must submit an answer to the filer in writing or by person or by mail, and a copy to the NBPA in writing within 30 calendar days of receipt of the grievance. The hearing. An arbitrator receives the answer, and the hearing is set to take place in New York City, or, unless agreed upon, could be in Chicago or Los Angeles. Either party can appear in person or by counsel. After the decision is made by the arbitrator, it may not go to judicial review on any grounds. The costs. The costs are split for arbitration unless the arbitrator deems conduct to be frivolous and then can assess it to one party or the other. Money is paid within 10 days of the decision, if applicable. Time limits. Time limits may be extended by written agreements of parties. Oversight and compliance procedure. The disciplinary committee. The NBPA Executive Committee serves as a disciplinary committee and is used to discipline player agents that violate. They can also go outside and use external legal counsel if necessary. Complaint/filing. This is sent to the agent within 6 months of acknowledging violations. The answer. The agent has 20 days to respond via email or certified mail to the disciplinary committee. The proposed disciplinary actions are sent by the committee to the agent within 30 days of answer. They are as follows: reprimand and foul retained in offices, formal letter of reprimand which may be made public, fine of up to $100,000 paid within 30 days to the NBPA Foundation, restitution to the player, suspension of certified status for a period of time, revocation of the certification. An agent may appeal 20 days after receipt of the disciplinary actions or accept it. An arbitrator within 30 days of receipt of the notice of appeal sets the time and place of the hearing in New York City, unless the parties mutually agree on Los Angeles or Chicago. A failure to file a timely appeal means the agent has accepted the proposed discipline and or automatic expiration of their certification. Conduct of hearing. The committee will have the burden of proving, except in the automatic expiration of the certification, where the agent has the burden of proving. The hearing will be in accordance with the voluntary labor arbitration rules of American Arbitration Association and transcribed, and each party can have counsel. The arbitrator decides two issues. One, if the agent has engaged in prohibited conduct as accused, and two, if discipline proposed is reasonable. If either of those are found to be true, then the arbitrator will delegate appropriately. Time and cost. Time can be extended if parties agree. The NBPA pays the arbitrator, and each party pays their own counsel and witnesses. The effective date of the amendments, it's all effective June 30, 2019, and can be amended periodically by officers of the NBPA and player representatives. Happy studying. See you at the top.